Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Unwritten. In this episode, me and Lolita Guaran talk about coping with an abusive and alcoholic father growing up and overcoming that and not playing the victim. Also, we go over how she dealt with workaholism, if that's a thing, and also how she overcame burnout from being a workaholic, and much more. And before we dive deep into the episode, don't forget to subscribe to support the show, because we are all on this journey together, and I would be deeply grateful if you supported the show and this journey that I'm going on. Anyways, enjoy the episode. I'll see you there. Peace. Welcome to the Unwritten Podcast with your host, Thomas Malpass, where we are on a mission to help the world find more purpose, passion, and peace in their everyday lives. Through deep conversations and connection, tune in, because we are all on this journey of life together.
I don't know how much you've read about me, but as you can tell by my accent, I'm not really from here. I'm not local. I came to US, 23 years ago now, and I came here for American Dream. I came from Lithuania, so I was really working a lot, and that really impacted my health because I was not really paying attention to myself and my body. Bad nutrition, exercise, burnout, just workaholic pretty much, and it impacted my health so much that I became ill and I had to go to emergency room. And it was like in my 30s, so it's like, oh, you're young, you're not supposed to be sick. I'm like, how is that even happening to me? But later I realized it was because of stress, and I didn't know how to manage my time, my energy. I was people pleaser. I was afraid to say no to people. I was like, oh, I just need to work hard and please everybody around me, and then I'll achieve my dream, and then I get paid more, and then all of that came. But
the endless cycle, yeah.
But that cost a lot of my health. So only when I became a stress management coach, helping people to manage their stress and the burnout, I was just one day reading a book about how to do business, and the author was talking about her father being an alcoholic, and then I started reading the book that she recommended, and I realized that the way I act to stress, the way I act to everything really in the environment, it really came from that wounded child, of that childhood trauma that I experienced, constantly being in stress and constantly being anxious. And now somebody who's listening now, they're like, oh, I don't have a father alcoholic. I have nobody in my family that's an addict. Though that's not a podcast for me. It's really, we all have something that we didn't get support of when we were growing up. And this is not come I'm saying like parents doing a bad job. Like parents always doing a good job. Like we all actually doing the best we can. Always. It's like I don't think somebody wakes up in the morning and they're like, you know what, I think I'm going to have a shitty day today. Yeah, I'm going to be like, I'm going to go around, I'm going to mess people up, and I'm going to do something bad for myself and for the family I love. That never happens. We always
like intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody intentionally does that.
And even those intentionally, who people are like, well, what about Hitler? He woke up one day and said, we're going to kill a bunch of people. But it is because also I think it's coming from the place of hurt. It's always we do what serves us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he did that because something, I don't know the exact historical facts of it, but I know it had something to do with World War I, and he was in there. And there's actually a crazy story about that where the sniper, there was a sniper that was gonna snipe Hitler in World War I, and they let him go. Yeah, there's like a real story about the guy that had his aim at Hitler. He told this story that he was about to shoot him, but he for some reason, I think like the war was over. It was like towards the end of the war, and they were like you could go, and that was Hitler. But I was talking about Hitler.
They're like, no, you're not gonna talk about that. It's too much.
No, we could talk about whatever.
Yeah.
But I did. Yeah, I have like an opening question I asked everybody.
Okay.
You kind of already started, but yeah. So take us back to and tell us some experiences that shaped who you are today in search of your purpose, passions, and peace in life.
So I think when I was working way too much and it really impacted my health, and then I realized that there was a lot of it had to do how I was acting to the stressful situations, how I was acting in the work environment, how I was acting with other people, really had to do how I grew up in my dysfunctional family and how my parents shaped really of who I became. That person who's constantly people please others, who always listening to everybody's opinion, who don't even have the understanding who I truly am, just in order to have acceptance in the group. And I think since we are mammals, we need to live in a group in order to regulate ourselves emotionally. And really physically, it's better when you will live in a group because it's very hard to live by yourself in the woods, obviously. So we need other people. So we constantly will be very cautious about to belong in the group, but we have to be very careful not to blend in the group. So when I realized that, so I was really losing of who I truly am because I grew up in a dysfunctional family, I realized that there are a lot of my clients, because I was already coaching for stress management, the burnout, and you can do as many yoga exercises as you want to, as many meditations you can do, but if you're really not addressing the issue, where you came from and why you're not behaving the way you think you should, and especially I've seen in a lot of clients and overall people in general, like we have this tendency of beating something into existence, and then it's like, how come I'm doing all of this work and I'm doing and doing and doing and there's just nothing happening? Well, because if you think that you being unsuccessful is serving you, then you always will keep yourself unsuccessful. Or like if you think that you not being in the best body shape is serving you, you will be never better body shape no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So then I realized that's really, really what the core is how do you see yourself and how do you grow up in what environment, what patterns you have in your brain. That's what you need to address first. So then when I realized this and I started applying in my life, that really changed so altogether how I react to many things, I achieved my goals, I had great relationships, and all of that happened because I finally was able to honor myself and go into truly who I am and accept myself and others who are in that kind of situation. And that's when I was like, you know what, I think a lot of people should know this, that, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just different, and we all are different. That's the beauty of life.
Yeah. So I did want to ask how. So first, how did you address this childhood trauma, and if you want to open up about what exactly it was that was traumatic to you growing up?
So my dad was an alcoholic, and I'm only one child. I don't have any siblings. So that's for me, it was super scary. It's like anyone who has an addict in the family probably can relate. It's like you come home and you don't really know what's going to happen today. I remember when I was a kid, I would be afraid to go home after school because I would assume that my dad was drunk today. And when he would, when I contributed a chapter to one of the best-selling books, I started a chapter with the memory when I was a child. I remember if I will think, okay, it's 5 p.m. in the evening and I'm already home after school, and if I hear that my dad is coming back home, that's actually really bad because that means he is already late come to home. That means he's probably had a little bit of drink. So if he had a little bit of drink, then he could be like very feisty and, you know, like start just talking too much and bothering and whatever. If he will be more drunk, then it will be even worse, because that means that he's going to start throwing things and just be violent. I would like when he would not come home at all, because that means he was just so drunk that he just passed out somewhere and couldn't even make it home. So just by knowing that every day I had no idea what's going to happen to me, I was always constantly stressed and constant, like hypervigilant in anything that I do. And that's what they brought into my adult life, because if I'm in situation that I'm always expecting the worst, because that's just survival. It's like I'm going to mentally prepare for the worst, and then if it doesn't happen, that's great. And somebody who's listening to me now, they're like, well, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. But that's just really hindering any hope of having things for better, because even if something good happens, I always think to myself, okay, there's something wrong with that. This is too good to be true. And while I'm waiting, okay, this is going well, but you know, something bad's going to happen, so I'm not going to even enjoy the moment. And that's the sad part, is like when you grow up in an environment where you do not, we're not allowed or afraid to be joyful and expect yourself to relax and have fun. That's a very painful childhood. Actually, you bring yourself into adulthood that you really cannot relax 100%. And I read this research that I found it hilarious, that it says, how your brain works. It's like, imagine that you are in a situation where you are just hyper vigilant. So your brain says, oh my gosh, you know, now we need to be careful, we need to be careful, we need to be careful. And then you have this high stress level, and then situation passes. And it could be something simple, like let's say you're sitting in traffic and you're late, or you're giving a presentation, or you have to call someone. Basically any stressful situation that it's taking you out of your comfort zone, out of your normal, you will be stressing. So then your brain says, okay, we're gonna put this hypervigilance in now. And then you survive, because, well, let's just face it, a lot of times in our life we survive the stressful situations. Otherwise, you know, we wouldn't be here anymore. So then, the brain thinks, oh, this is awesome, you know, guess what? It worked. It worked. So now, next time we're stressing, we're going to, again, be hyper-vigilant and all stressed out and anxious, so we will make sure we will survive this through. So then, the brain works and always about this survival, and then you keep on stressing every time there's something stressful comes along, because you learn that being stressed, it helps. So
it's a learned behavior.
Learned behaviors. When you think like, hey, okay, well, maybe that's a good thing. But the problem is that when we have difficulty of disconnecting that and saying, okay, I'm out of this situation, now I can relax, it's not that easy for us. So it's a key to realize that when you are out of situation, you allow yourself really to disconnect, and you have to talk yourself through it and make sure that's not a pattern.
Because your comfortable zone was being anxious, on edge all the time. That was your comfort zone. So whenever you were taken out of that, you felt wrong.
Absolutely. But that's a huge impact in the body too, because it just start breaking apart, because you cannot be in a consciously stressed environment.
Yeah. It's like, it seems like the way you explain it, it seems like when you think of fight or flight mode, you're always in either or. You were either in fight or flight mode all the time.
Yes, and then you bring everything else in your life with that too. Relationships, you're always in the same thinking like, oh, people gonna hurt me. So you always look at everything very cautiously, and that makes you really feel very lonely, because you just push people away.
So how did you deal with that?
So it's funny when I think about it. That's a good question, actually. I am a very friendly person, and I'm very extroverted, and I need people. So I know a lot of people, and I always learn how to make friends, because also I was the only one child. So I know that relationships means a lot. So I know a lot of people, but because I have this point of view of, wait, I don't want to be hurt, I will allow people to come in, but only that much. And I read this book. It's by Teal Swan. It's called The Pandemic of Loneliness, or something like that. And when I read, it was really, it's kind of was sad to realize that. So basically, she states that the biggest pandemic right now is the loneliness of, you can be someone who lives in the 1 million people, 5 million people city, and you feel all alone. You could be a person who's sitting in a group of people in the room and you're feeling alone, or you be in a party and everybody's having fun, looks like they're having fun, and you're like feeling, oh my gosh, I'm totally out of space. Or the actual loneliness is when nobody see for who you are. And this is going back to, again, childhood trauma of when you grew up in the environment where people around you did not give you enough validation of who you are. They were constantly gaslighting you of, like, you say, well, I'm cold. They're like, no, you're not cold. Or like, oh, I'm scared. They're like, no, you're not scared. Or like, oh, it's painful. And they're like, no, it's not painful.
That's like the worst when people do that. I catch it now. I catch people when they do that, and I say, don't do that.
Good for you.
Because I know what you're doing.
Boundaries is very important. Yeah.
No, I like nip it in the bud when somebody, because it's a sign of immaturity to me when they try to do that, because I'm so self-aware and I'm so conscious that when somebody does that, exactly what you're saying, I'm like, no, stop that. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
Well, they're trying to control it because they think if they control you, then they feel safe. They're doing that out of their safety zone. So, yeah, but kudos to you. Boundaries is extremely important. And, what also I want to say about the loneliness, what I found it very tragic, is that when you grew up in an environment that the part of you was not accepted and not loved, you learned out of survival to take it away. Like that part of you, you're like, I will never show this to people. So for example, somebody loves singing and the family says, well, you just suck at singing, never sing again. For example, that's what happened with George Michael, apparently, when I watched the documentary about his life. I was like, really? Oh my gosh. Sometimes parents do funny things. So anyway, so when you imagine like you want to sing and they tell you, no, you suck. So then you think, okay, I'm going to stop singing and I will never open my mouth because, I suck and I don't want to be excluded from the group. Because when you're excluded of the group, you're going to die, kind of just survivalist brain pretty much. So then you grow up and then you go into your adult life of always hiding this part of yourself to anyone because you're afraid to be rejected by them. So then what happens when somebody tells you, oh, I love you, like I really love you, you kind of look at this and think, I don't think so, because you don't even know me. And they don't know you because you never opened those parts of yourself to show in the first place. And more than this,
you only love one side of me.
Yes,
you don't love the whole me.
And the worst part is that part, or let's say that singing part, you even yourself neglected as well, and you don't even allow yourself to sing. So that's why we become very lonely, because we do not allow ourselves to see our true self, the whole us, and showing to other people. And when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, that explains so many things. That's why there's so many people lonely, because we're just afraid to show ourselves.
So do you show yourself now?
I am now, even if people don't want it. I'm like, yes, I'm a very hyper, and then I can be starting yelling, and I'm a very passionate person. And if you don't like that, find somebody else to love.
So you used to withhold withhold that part of yourself before you realized this?
Oh, absolutely. Because I knew what people will tolerate, what they wouldn't. And for example, I was married for 13 years and then I ended the marriage because I realized that's not even me. That's not who I am. I was super unhappy. And when I realized I was not even allowing myself to express myself because I was afraid that I will be discarded, I will be excluded from the group, meaning out of my marriage. And when someone grows up in a dysfunctional family where they're always afraid of being left behind, there is this fear of abandonment that really impacted all my life, how I was dealing with people, not only in the romantic setting, but with friends, also with coworkers, with anywhere there is a group included. I was so afraid to tell my point of view that I just pretty much abandoned of who I was. So when I started speaking up, some of my friends were like, wow, we had no idea you had this inside you. So
They seen a different side of you.
yeah, but it takes a lot of courage to really tell yourself, like, I am going to not allow myself to be me. Just being with yourself, it's already a big deal. But if someone grows up in a dysfunctional family where they were not allowed to be themselves, they were always trying to portray to be somebody else or mimic somebody else, it can take time for someone to actually realize what is that they really want. Who are they? You have to go through a lot of courage and try many things to finally find yourself.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find myself. No, I think I found myself, and I mean, that's why I'm doing this, because this is part of myself and it's part of what I want to spread. And just hearing stories like yours, it really is inspiring, because I think people have two choices when they deal with trauma. You either hold on to it and you use it as a victimization of yourself and you stay stuck in that trauma. Well, I can't do this because I was traumatized. Well, I can't do this because I was traumatized. Or you could say you could grow from it and choose to learn that your trauma is not who you are today, and you have every day to create a new you, because your trauma was in the past, and yes, it hurts, yes, it's traumatic, and you'll always remember it, but every day is a new day to start fresh.
And when I realized that there are many things that I was doing in life because of childhood trauma, it felt very discouraging, because I thought, like, oh my gosh, this means I'm damaged. That's it. The rest of my life is going to be thrown out because I will never be somebody successful or happy or whatever. But that's what I want to tell everyone is no matter what environment you grow up in, nobody is perfect also, and we all damage in our own way. But that is the beauty of this. This is why we're all unique. We don't have to be anybody else. We just have to be ourselves. And when you think about it, everything will be perfect. It will be super boring. Life is about experience, right? It's all about experience.
We'd all be robots.
It will be just all robots, and that's not what life is. And we're constantly growing and constantly evolving and experiencing ourselves. And I think the beauty of life is really to allowing yourself to be you, and constantly going, even not allowing yourself, it is allowing yourself to be you. Even going against yourself is to knowing your boundaries and thinking, hey, I could do this. I had no idea I could do this. That is also experience.
Yeah. So you talked about you were married for 13 years. Do you think you changed at all during that time, or do you think you were pretty much the same person until after you separated?
So I think any change happens in two ways. I know there's some people make it in 3 or 4 ways, but they say it's only in 2. Pretty much, or you can be inspired. Let's say you watch Tony Robbins and you say, oh my gosh, I really want to be rich and famous like him, so I'm going to do whatever he's doing. Or you actually make a change when it's so painful that you cannot do it anymore. And I think that's the majority of change actually happens. So I think through all of my marriage years, the many things were accumulating and really showing of how unhappy I was, and until to the point that it's also impacted my health, because everything I was workaholic, because also it came from that being a dysfunctional family child, where it works like, okay, if you don't love me the way I am and I am not enough, then I'm going to be useful. I'm going to be so useful that you cannot replace me. So then it becomes this people pleasing. So I was a workaholic.
That's actually a good trait to have, to be so good. Like that sounds like a good trait.
Yes, because that's a surviving mechanism. So you think
Yeah.
that I'm going to be the perfect one, but it's like running for the horizon. You will never reach it. It's like constantly burning yourself, and you will never be perfect because perfection does not exist. It's like there's no completion.
So you were working so hard for perfection.
Exactly. So that's what really burned me to the ground of not, and that's what impacts everyday life of like you not giving enough your time for exercise or nutrition or sleep or having meaningful relationships or allowing yourself to do a hobby that you like or working something and doing your career something that you really love because you're trying to please other people. So like I'm going to be the best so you would love me. And that is
not
all
for
the
yourself.
relationship. Yes, it's
Yeah.
like if you love, you know what they say. Well, how you can get rich? Do something that you love, and then money will follow. But if you're doing something that you think it will be pleasing to other people, you're just burning yourself to the ground. And if we take a little bit farther, when I mentioned before, the fear of abandonment, I think that's so tragic. Is that like let's say because I was afraid that my parents will abandon me because I'm not perfect, I will do whatever they want me to do. But at the same time, because it is not what I want to do, I am abandoning myself in that situation. So, and I think that abandoning yourself is the worst thing that you can do for yourself. And how
you can't ever do that. Yeah.
And you know, like, if people, I have clients, they're like, what do you mean I'm abandoning myself? Everywhere I go, I take myself with me, right? Well, no, not necessarily, because if let's say you're let's say you're going somewhere, like let's say you have you hang out with some friends, and let's say they decide that they want as a group to go and do something, and you really don't really want to do that. But because you feel like that you're not going to be accepted to the group, you agree with them. But that you are actually abandoning yourself because that's not what you want to do. That's not your values, not your goals. So you really abandon yourself as a person. Even though if you're taking and you drag your body with you to go to do whatever those
like
other
physically,
exactly.
Even though you're physically there, you're not mentally all there.
And then you negate yourself, and that's you just causing yourself to be more lonely, and you like pushing yourself from yourself.
Yeah, I think it comes down to being selfish for yourself, and just doing what you want to do. I think that's what it comes down to, not abandoning yourself. I think that's why I do everything I do, to be honest, is because, I could have just done what my mom wanted me to do, like, go to medical school, get a medical degree, and because it's always in demand, or like get into tech or something. But that's not what fulfills me,
And I hear when I tell my class, I'm like, you have to take care of yourself first, so you can take care of others. And there's like immediate pushback of like saying, oh, you mean, are you telling me I have to be selfish? And selfish always comes in our society is such a negative thing to do, because selfish people are like those narcissists who always take, but they never give it back. But now we need to really address the issue of those people who are like narcissistic, and they always like it's all about them. It's really coming not from the mature person, not the one who's fulfilled with themselves. It's actually coming from a person who is not fulfilled, who is not feeling good about themselves, and they're not full. That's why when your needs are neglected and you are so in pain because they're not met and you cannot do anything about that, you will go two ways, I think. One, or you go into addiction, then you're going to be a workaholic, or using drugs or using alcohol, whatever, something that helps you to suppress that pain, or you will become a narcissist and very selfish person who's really will go and meet their needs by force. But neither of those people are really full and mature and fulfilled. So you need to fulfill yourself in order to help and fulfill others. So you do not look like, from other point of view, like, oh, you're so narcissistic and you're so selfish, because it's everything always about me. Because I think there is happy people and fulfilled people and never hurt others. Only hurt people hurt others.
Yeah, like you would never think somebody who's truly happy and fulfilled, why would they need to bring other people down? You know? Because when it's true, hurt people because they're hurt and they want you to feel the same way they do.
So it was like, what is it you do in that
fulfilled.
situation? Number one, have compassion and look at them and say, okay, I see where you're coming from. I'm sorry, dude, for you, but I'm not going there. How can I help you? So you don't drag me with you, and and that's the acknowledging why is this really happening. That can start changing things, and that's what changed how I looked at my parents, because when I realized that a lot of things that I was struggling, it was because the way I grew up. The immediate response for me was I just got angry at my parents. I was like, how could they mess up my life? And now I'll never be successful. I'm going to be always unhappy because they messed this up. And then I realized that they were doing the best as they can, as I mentioned before. They always doing the best in the capacity. And they also, when I looked at the grandparents and my grandparents, and usually that's like generational trauma. It goes from generation to generation. The same traumas, because the grandparents, do such a bad job because somebody's before them to show them the parenting style, or there's like a loss in the family, or the war, or whatever, something that there's always a lack, and so they learn to carry on the same parenting style for the children. And it's not like they want to hurt you. It's just
like
that's the best that they can do. Yeah, and they themselves are children who probably didn't get the needs met to begin with. So when I saw my mom and my dad, like, oh, they also at 3 years old, that they're just throwing a tantrum right now, and I had a lot of more tolerance and love towards my parents, and it doesn't get me triggered anymore. Whatever my mom says something, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking at her like she's 3 years old, or like my dad, I'm like, I'm there for you. I'll feel you, but I'm not gonna go down that same route.
No, I have the same, me and my siblings, because I'm the youngest of 4. So it's kind of different. And it's interesting because we all have a different perspective of our mom, because our mom was a single mother and she was raising us and trying the best she did. But I know it took us years to realize that she was just trying her best in her own way, and for so many years we would put the blame on her and never realize that she had her own trauma too. And she's first generation Filipino, so she was the first one to bring us over here from the Philippines, and they have a completely different culture over there. And she dealt with her own trauma, being the second or third oldest of 14 kids over there.
Oh, wow.
And she had to basically grow up fast too, and also deal with her abusive father, my grandfather on her side. And we used to just blame her for not getting our needs met the same way, but there came a point where you just have to let go of that blame and forgive her and just trust that she was trying her best.
Yeah, that's true. That's very hard work.
Yeah. So how do you deal with this? You were working your ass off, and I was reading, you said you collapsed. How did you feel in that moment?
Well, when I was in the emergency room and the doctor told me, like, okay, this is happening probably because of stress, because even if you do lots of tests, it's not like I just can take a pill, it's just So it's like, okay, this has got to stop. And I start doing a lot of things that are very common in the, like how to manage stress if you look online. So it's going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
write a journal, do time management, like do meditation, do all of those things. And it really, this is what the beginning, I think everybody should start doing something that helps them to manage things that they do. And for example, when I do workshops and I speak on stages, whatever, when I start talking, I say, okay, everybody raise your hand. And they raise their hand, and I say, now you're gonna hold that hand until I tell you to put it down. And then I keep talking and talking. And then like people get like annoyed. They're like, come on, my hand is hurt. So then some of them put down, and some of them do not. And then I'm like, okay, when we have only a few hands left, I said, well, you know what, this is what stress is. Because when you continuously doing something,
that's really good.
it's really going to impact you a lot, right? But imagine.
Like, why? That's really good. That's a really good test.
So, but imagine like if I'll tell you, raise your hand, and then like, a minute later I say, okay, put it down. And then again I say, raise it up and put it down. You can do this all day long. So the key is really to give yourself a break. And that break it has to be physically and mentally. That has to do, let's say, with the stress management. You have to take breaks, and especially right now we're like so much on the computers, on the phone, on everything. And if you are a workaholic and you're like trying to be your best and all of this, you probably will be staring at something for a very long time, and you will not get up even. So you have to, I tell my clients, I'm like, put an alarm on your phone, because we always have the phone with us. So let's use for something good. Put an alarm, and it's good like every hour. If you are, if you can, and of course, I always say, if you're doing operating a machinery or driving or whatever, do not do this. Immediately disclaimer, that don't hurt yourself or others. But if you can, and if you stay in an environment, put an alarm on that rings every hour. And then for 1 minute, and I'm not asking too much, for 1 minute, just like stop and just close your eyes and just breathe in and breathe out, just like connect with your body, have a glass of water, and like if you dehydrated, that's already cuts 20% of your brain capacity to work. So hydration is extremely important. And I'm not used to drink a lot of water at all. I was just never used to it. So until I made it a habit. So and it's then like stand up and stretch, just feel in, and if you do those little breaks as much as possible, then you will not be so tired and exhausted at the end of the day. And I know it looks like, are you telling me to breathe in and breathe out? This is so lame. Like, it doesn't have to be so complicated. I say stress management should not be stressful. Natural things that come to us, that's the mechanism of the body. It's supposed to be easy. I constantly hear like, what's supposed to be easy? Like, well, why am I working so hard? Well, because you're doing this to yourself. And so always take breaks as much as possible. And another thing, what I realized really, it's what comes to stress management. There's so many things that we stress ourselves out for no reason at all. Like usually, if something happens, you just ask yourself, will this make an impact in 5 years? Okay, well, for example, you got coffee and it's the wrong coffee in the Starbucks, I don't know. Big deal. Do you really need to like get worked up over that? You're just gonna tell them, look, they people too, okay, they messed up an order. You just go and say, hey, this is wrong order. They will give you a new one. But do you really need to like be so upset for the rest of your day? So always ask yourself, am I really doing this to myself? Because a lot of times it doesn't really matter, but you already messed up your day. You already exhausted so much of energy, and you already made the rest of your day so bad because you're now disappointed in everything that's around you and in yourself.
And I think that we could circle back into it, but I think that also stems from unresolved past, because it's like if you never, it goes back to what we were saying. It's like if you were truly fulfilled, happy, and at peace, you wouldn't get so worked up. But I think people who have unresolved traumas, it's eating them. It's like a door that is closed, but it's slowly deteriorating you. And you left it unresolved, and you may say you're okay with it, but it's showing in these ways. Or I think that's what I think it is, because not to like go back to how my mom is, but my mom gets very, very triggered when we bring up certain topics, and then it turns into a defense mechanism. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, if you were truly at peace, someone truly at peace won't get so triggered and pent up over it, you know? And I think that's what it stems from, is those small moments. Because the way I see it is, man, like, it's going to take a lot of energy to get angry. Why do I want to use my energy, why do I want to use my energy that I don't have that much of towards this, you know?
And
that's how I see it.
Yeah, and a lot of that really triggering happens is because somebody doesn't feel like they're worthy enough. It's like if somebody says, well, why are you doing this? It's like, what, am I doing not enough? You're not liking this because you're not approving of me. You're not giving me validation for who I am. And that's usually somebody who grew up in a dysfunctional family of just feeling never good enough, but also where there is not even a permission to be you. There was not even permission to feel what you feel. So how do you really heal this? Like within yourself, you just need to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling and tell yourself that's okay. And like, okay, I'm feeling, like, for example, it happened to me when I started this journey. I'll be like, okay, now I'm gonna be in this constant Zen environment. I'm not gonna be angry. I'm gonna be just awesome. And then something happens, like somebody, I don't know, you're driving somewhere and somebody cuts you off, and I will like get angry for like no freaking reason, right? Because they don't know me, I don't know them, but it triggers me. I take it personally, and then I get angry, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, did I just get angry? I'm supposed to be all Zen now, and then I will get angry that I got angry. And so the key is really to not abandoning yourself by saying, okay, well, I got angry. You know what? That's fine. So now I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to be angry. Okay, let me be angry. And the funny thing about anger is that if you really truly allow yourself the emotion, that really the emotion when it was all started to be there, it will run out very fast. A lot of anger does not run out, where people get very angry and breaking things. It's not about that anger. It's about what's actually the actual trigger, what happened. That always goes back into being unloved and unappreciated, and like fear of abandonment, just basically feel unsafe. So when you allow yourself to feel what you feel, this is you not abandoning yourself. You're honoring yourself. You are there for yourself. And we as children always grow up like, oh no, you do not feel your emotions. Crying is a bad thing. Feeling angry is a bad thing. So now you need to go back to whatever that was and allow yourself to be whatever that was. And if you, like for example, like I grew up with my father alcoholic, and there was a lot of written about it's okay to be angry at your parents, like because you think this is a bad thing to do. Because it says like, okay, so this says like, imagine yourself, you are this child who's, let's say, 5 years old, and a father who's breaking things. In that situation, probably the child is feeling very unsafe and probably angry at the parent. But then, because you don't know how to handle this emotion when you're 5 years old, you just kind of lock in and just hide it inside of yourself. So whatever something happens when you're an adult, you're trying to deal with that trauma that already happened 20 years ago. But now you're an adult, so you can deal with this, and it's okay for you to be angry. It's okay to look at that situation and say, you know what, that 5 years old kid didn't know how to handle the situation. And it's okay. And it's okay to be angry to the things that happen, because it's very wrong to have a parent who's abusive to a child. That is wrong, and it's okay. You can justify your feeling bad about that, and there's nothing wrong about this. Especially in the society, it's like, oh, anybody who's authority figure, we should be afraid of, and we should just make them authority, and they can run and do whatever they want to. But that is not true. That really comes from the survivalist point of view of like we have to be in the group, otherwise we die. But it's very important to choose the right authority and understand we all are equal, you know, so it all starts from there. But I already kind of went way too far from this, but the key is to feel your emotions and allow yourself to be you.
No, that's something I struggled with personally, because a lot of my family sees me as cold. Like if you ask any of my siblings, even my own mom, I get it from her mom. But they say like, oh, like you say you love us, but like how do you, like, you don't really show it. I'm like, I don't know, that's just my way of loving you, you know. And I'm a very introvert, so I like to, like, I'd rather have solitude and like go for a walk or something than go party. I mean, I have my times where I like to hang out with friends and stuff, but I think there's something in me that it gives me more clarity and room to like think about all these thoughts when I am by myself. So yeah. I don't know where I was going with this.
But you know, that's good, because what you're doing, you're honoring yourself, and you are filling your needs, and you are allowing yourself to feel and be you. That's a very, very good thing, because when you are you, then you can support and love others. Now, when it comes to this, I heard many times this saying, it says, treat others as you want to be treated. And I think that's a wrong way to look at it, because we are very different. Yeah, we are very different. We all have different love languages. I'm sure everybody knows by now, like, you know, the different things. So what's that, like 4 types of love languages that you need to know which ones you like, right? And which ones they like. So that's mean the actual saying should be treat others as they want to be treated. So, you know, you can go to your mom and say, okay, mom, I love you, but what would show you, what would show you that I love you? And she can say, you know what, if you just come and give me a hug once in a while, that'd be great. And then you're like, okay, cool, so now I know what to do. So next time you see your mom or whatever, in a week, in a month, whatever, you like, you come and give her a hug. And she gets what she wants. That means she understands, you listened to her, and you pay attention to her, and she gets validation from you that you still love her. And then you give her what you wanted, so that makes you feel good too, because now you're in a good relationship, and you feel like oh, great, you know, I did something right. So then you give yourself validation as well. And all it took is just a communication and understanding that you have a very different love languages, and then just going to the person and asking, hey, how do you want me to love you? And that's all that is. Somehow we have this idea of and especially about feelings, and you know, this is too sticky, and I don't know how you're gonna treat me. But if you get enough courage to actually ask even friends or whoever, you know, and we allow ourselves to be ourselves and say, you know what, this is how I want to be treated, then the life will be just so much easier, and the communication, it's always such a good thing to start. Of course, it takes courage, but it's so worth it.
I think it's because a lot of people a lot of people think we're all mind readers. It's like, well, they should just know, like, you know, they should just know. But it's like, no, we don't know. Like, we're not mind readers. We have to communicate, and we have to express how we feel. And I think it's especially like prominent in men, because men, it's like, oh, you're weak, man. Like, why are you like crying? Like, like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, man, you know, I went through like a adultery moment and cheating and dealing with like heartbreak and stuff, and I didn't even cry. I just felt like all these emotions, and it ended up coming out in well, it took me a long time to cry. Like, I had to force myself to cry. Like, I have to like watch a movie or like listen to like sad music to like trigger. Like, I can't just like sit down and be like, like just bawl my eyes out. I have to like have like a I have to like have something like a sad movie and be like, oh my god, and then it just all comes out. But man, I forgot what I was gonna say again.
Well, but since you forgot what you want to say, until you remember, I can say not necessarily that everybody needs to be like really doing crying. Any understanding your emotion and allowing yourself to be you, it counts. So, for example, you can write a poem. You can just sit and write. You just can sit and write, or for example, just go in the somewhere in the nature, just stare at the waterfall, and you're just staring at something. But because you give that time to yourself, just to be who you are, that is already processing you all those emotions, and you're going through the grieving stages of like losing a relationship and whatever. As long as you're allowing yourself to be you and not really forcing, because even if you are forcing yourself to cry, that's still abandoning yourself, because that's not what you really want to do. That's not your really nature. And I'm not saying you personally, but like talking about you. So as long as you find a way how you allow yourself to be who you are and get those emotions out, it doesn't matter how they come out. Even somebody could be super angry and beat the pillow, but if that works for them, then power to it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I wasn't allowing myself to feel anything. Like I was like, man, I just have to be strong and just move on. But I knew like deep down, it's like sometimes all you need to do is get a good cry in. Like honestly, because it's like, and this is for like the man, it's like sometimes you just need to express your damn emotions, man. Like just express yourself, like, because then it ends up showing out, it comes out in different ways. And like for me, for a long time, I was having night sweats, and I didn't know why. I was having like soaking wet night sweats. Like I would wake up and my pillow and blanket would, like, you could like wring it out type of sweat. And I was like, why am I feeling this way? And you just have to allow yourself the emotions and know that it's okay to cry sometimes, man.
Yes, because the emotions, they just get stuck in the body and then they manifest themselves as an illness. Or worse, like you will become just an addict, because it will be so painful they will try to run away from that pain.
Yeah. So where are you now at this point in your life? What do you do to de-stress, compress, and reflect?
So my goal is to talk with as many people as possible to remind them that that's okay, whoever they are, no matter how broken they may seem, because that's the beauty of it. And if you come up with a childhood trauma and something happened to you, it's a good thing, because now you can use this as a superpower. That means you're more resilient and overall in life. You can handle things better than probably somebody else who didn't go through the hard time. And I wrote plenty of books, and my best-selling, the last one, the bestseller, The Stress Management for Adult Children of Alcoholics, is available on Amazon. Same as Chris Just While You Work. For those who want to get the book, it's online. But I also have a online membership that I teach how to manage stress for children who came up from addiction families. I also have other online programs that I teach. I do one-on-one coaching. I do podcasts. I'm just spreading the word and saying, it's time for you to really love yourself for who you are, and it's okay. You're not really broken. And how I do that now, I'm penciling myself in my business schedule first, because I know that I have to take that break. Remember when I said, raise your hand and then you put it down? I need to stop running myself over, and I should take my time, do things that I love doing it, not take things so personally, and doing something that I love and allow myself to what I want to do. And for example, there will be days that I feel like, I really need to go work out today, but you know what, I kind of feel so lazy, and I am not going to abandon myself that moment. And I'm going to be just watch Netflix, and I'm not going to go to work out. I'm going to maybe eat the whole potato bag, but the potato chips, the whole bag, and and not be guilty after I've done it, and say, you know what, this is cool. I just experienced eating the whole chips bag, and I'm fine with that. I don't feel any guilt, and this is called life experience. So yeah, that's why I am now.
That's what you do now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you just allow yourself,
Yeah.
but before you used to not. And that's good. That's okay. Yeah, I think that's the issue with a lot of people who try to diet. Is they like, oh, it has to be so strict. Like, I'm not gonna be able to do anything, and that's why you can't stick with it. You have to, when it comes to dieting, at least, or probably with anything, you have to be strict, but not too strict, I guess.
Yeah, and also that comes to any goal, really. You cannot force yourself to do something if you really, truly inside don't want to. So, for example, everything that we do serves us somehow, and that goes to survival, really, and being loved and accepted and being safe. So, let's say somebody who is not, let's say they are overweight, and they want to make this huge diet that's going to make them very slim and gorgeous, but no matter what they do, it's still not happening. It is because it's serving them somehow. Maybe there was something happened in their childhood that they realized, like, oh, if I'm going to be slim and pretty and I'm going to get abused, so now I'm going to be just obese and ugly, so nobody will look at me. In that way, that makes me feel safe. So it's always survival. There's always some reason why you're not achieving your goal. So like, oh, how come I'm not rich? I'm trying so hard and working on my projects and things, and I'm still not rich, because it's probably serving you somehow. Maybe you are afraid that your family not going to love you because now you're successful. Maybe you're afraid that you're going to get robbed because you have so much money. You can go on and on. But if something, project, something you're working on, and it looks like you're not achieving it, there is a reason why the situation is serving you. Always ask yourself, how is this serving me? It looks absurd from the beginning, but it always does.
I think for me, because my goal is to get this podcast to the top 100 charts. And I think for me personally, like, yes, it's work, but I feel like I want to get to a point where it's like the work doesn't feel like work.
It should be fun.
And that, the work should feel like you could just do it, and it shouldn't feel like a chore, like, oh, I have to do it. Like, you should want to do it. And I feel like when you get to that point, like for me, all of this, it's like I want to do this. And I feel like when you can find that work that you want to do, and then eventually, if you do it long enough, you're gonna be successful. Even when you get discouraged, I feel like that's how you find it,
Yes, I agree with you.
But do you have anything else that you want to express before we move on?
No, I just would say, everyone, accept yourself the way you are, and be less judgmental towards yourself and others, and just allow yourself to be you and feel who you are.
All right, I'm gonna move on to my final questions that I ask everybody that comes on. I ask them the same questions to get their take on it, because I'm curious. All right, first question is, what is your biggest regret in life, if you have any?
If that will be a few years back, I will say, oh, I think I wasted so much time of not really loving myself. But now I realize one thing: everything that we do is always on purpose. It's like that soup, like, oh, if you start tasting in the middle of a cooking process, it's probably not going to taste good. So I think everything is really on divine timing when you're ready for it. So do I have any regrets? I would say now, no, I don't have it, because every situation in my life really taught me something about myself and other people that is of great value.
Yeah, that's why this question I always tell everybody it's kind of a trick question because most people, our regrets are our learning experiences. And it's like, I learned something out of every regret that I had. Yeah, so you don't have any because you learned something. Okay, next question is, who or what has made the biggest impact on your life so far that makes you who you are?
There are plenty of people I followed over years. I would say like followed by reading what they have to say or watching them, whatever. But truly, at the end of the day, the person who really made the biggest impact, it's me. Because when you can listen to anybody else who says that, but if you're not really taking action, if you're not really being there for yourself, none of that really matters. So the person that inspired me the most is me.
That's good. That's the first time I had that. That's man, that was good. Yeah, you are. You are. At the end of the day, a lot of people may have had a big impact, but you are the only one that took it to action.
Yeah, I'm the only one that showed up to do that, you know.
That's really good, man. You take accountability in yourself. That's really good because it allows growth when you're accountable.
Well, if we give this to somebody else, then we're just taking power away from ourselves. So that's going into that codependency and being afraid. And that's what I say, we need to honor ourselves. We are much more powerful than we believe, you know.
We give ourselves credit for it.
Yeah.
Okay, that was good. What was one lesson that you learned the hard way?
I think it was just one lesson that was continuously showing up over and over and over until I really got it. It is by abandoning myself, by pleasing others, by doing whatever they want me to do. But in a way, I needed to do that too, because if you do not know how the dark looks like, you will never appreciate the light. So when I gave myself away and please everybody else, then I realized that I have to really come back to myself.
Yeah, I think that's what makes a difference to the people who like grow up with wealth or grow up in what seems like the perfect family or whatever. That I think that's what makes the difference between those types of people and the people that grew up with adversities and hardships.
But also, if somebody grew up, let's say, in a very rich household, it doesn't mean that where the emotional needs were met, because it could be that the parents are constantly working because to accumulate that wealth, and they never pay attention to a child. So they could be also feeling abandoned emotionally and still struggle to do the same things of somebody who doesn't have anything when they were growing up.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I don't know. I just believe that money is necessary, but when you have so much of it, I feel like it could take away from like the simple pleasures of life.
And
honestly.
different people have different needs. It's like as long as your needs were met. Like for example, like you're an introvert, right? So I'm an extrovert. So probably I'm going to need more love and affection and whatever, something. And for you, that will feel kind of a little bit weird, you know. So if we, both of us, get our needs met, even they came different ways, we'll be very happy because it's all about are your needs met, and everybody have different needs.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think just personally speaking, I think when it comes to relationships, though, I think it doesn't matter if you're introvert or extrovert. Like I could get along with you.
Yes,
but all right.
But also first you need to also get along with yourself.
Yes. First and foremost, get along with yourself. All right, next question is, what would you want to experience in life if time and money was not an issue?
Well, which I am already moving forward with that, I would like to travel everywhere I want to. I would like to experience any culture I want to. I would like to meet any people that I want to on my time, and no matter how much it costs.
Yeah, I think there's something about that, because that's a common answer, and I think it comes down to human nature, because if you look back at it, like the first humans or whatever, before we had like civilization, we were very nomadic. We had to keep going. We had to keep on the move to survive, and we were always traveling. And it's just in our blood to travel and experience new things in life and see the world in its entirety.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm the same. I want to experience the world and new cultures, and All right, final question is, do you have any personal insights in your journey of discovering yourself that would resonate with the audience?
I think I already did a pretty good job for the whole hour they spoke about my insight.
But if there was like one thing, like just to close it out.
One thing it will be, just accept yourself the way you are on the good days and the bad days.
Yeah, that's good. And allow it. It's okay. If you're listening
just
to
knowing
this,
that it's okay. Like it's okay. It doesn't matter what's happening. At the end of the day, it still will be okay.
yeah, unless it's gonna kill you.
Well, but then you will go back to your creator, which is then it's a good thing anyway, right?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. I think you had a lot of good things to say, and I think your story, it really is inspiring, because you came from a place where you could have stayed, but you chose to grow from it and become a better, more inspired person from it.
Thank you for good words, and thank you for inviting me to your podcast. I know it will be very successful.
We'll hope so. Let's get to 100 on the top 100 charts.
It's totally possible.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode, and much more to come. The only thing I ask in return is for you to subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with somebody so we can get the word across and spread this community, so that I can keep doing this, because you're not only supporting me, but you're supporting the community of everyone who listens. So until next time, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.